everybody. Welcome to a special Space Engineers episode. Yes, Apex Survival is out. It is September the 8th, 2025. It's a lovely Monday here in the west coast of Canada. And yes, Keen has released Apex Survival. And yeah, it looks like a lot. Yeah, this is something that when they announced it, I kind of really started to look forward to, and we're going to go over some of the features and stuff like that. So I'm not going to go into details about the new gameplay when it comes to survival, but I'm going to kind of go through their guide here, as you can see on the screen, just to kind of hide the high points. Mostly what I'm going to do is take a look at some of the blocks, and, I've kind of set up a little world here, and we can look at some things. The first big thing is food is now a thing in the game. Now, this is something that has been modded for quite a while. I've never actually played with it, but various YouTubers, of course, have been using the food mod for quite a while. Adding that little extra bit of gameplay. Splitsy. Over on his channel, he's doing a Survival Impossible where he has been using food and water. This is now something that is built right into the game. And as everything, it's purely optional whether or not you use it in your worlds. But it has a nice little kind of thing here. So let's kind of quickly go through it here. So there's basically 4 settings. You can leave the food setting off, so if you don't want to go for that, or if you're new to the game and it might be a little bit over challenging and overwhelming, go ahead, disable that. And then of course we have the 3 speeds here. There are penalties for that. So one of the big things is if your scale goes down, and we'll look at the scale when we get into the game, drop below 20%, you're going to start losing buffs. Now, that's something else that is new to the game. And just to kind of talk about that very quickly here, is basically the longer you survive, the better your character does. You get extra energy. You get, from what I can see so far, your stats improve. You go 120%. So you get these little buffs. It's a reward for surviving. If your clone gets killed, you still get your clone, but you start losing buffs, which means things get worse for you. You have to earn that up. Your energy doesn't last as long. Your oxygen doesn't last as long. There are actual now consequences to having your character die, which I think is great. We've all done base. Anyone who's been playing the game for a while have done base assaults and ship assaults, and it's the endless supply of, as long as you've got a survival kit or a med bay or something nearby, you can just keep throwing clone after clone after clone into the problem. Doing that now has real consequences to your character. You're going to get to be worse and worse and worse. So that's something very important to take into consideration. Why do I interject this now? It's because food plays into that. You get too hungry, you take damage, and eventually you could die. You're also going to lose speed, apparently, as you go around. So there's quite a bit of things in the food now. So we have things like this lovely chart here, so we can just quickly go through. Algae, fruit, grain, mushrooms, vegetables. We got mammal meat, so that is the reason to finally turn the wolves on. I've actually never ever played with the wolves or the let's just call them the spiders. So we now have meat. We have it in raw as well as we have it in cooked. And you can see here that if you eat raw meat, you're going to pay a price for it. It's not going to go well for you. If you eat it cooked, of course, you're going to get benefits. Same thing is that the sabroids now, so the good old spiders, they also can now supply meat. On top of that, we of course now can also grow our food, and these are some of the new blocks that we're going to have a better look at. Is that we can see that we have algae farms here. We can also now collect seeds, and we'll be using those in farming plots. So we have, fruits and grains and vegetables, as well as, of course, the good old mushrooms. Once, of course, we have our seeds, we now have farming plots, and we'll have a look at what the farming plots look like in there once we get into the world. But yeah, so there's lots of things that we're going to have to deal. So what this does introduce now is full-on food production. So it's a whole new production line that you can now have access to. And it's not just a simple matter of, collect up the ore, refine the ore, have a mine going somewhere, make it into steel plates. And anyone who's been, a few hours into a world, or a few dozen hours, or even a few hundred hours, you always kind of hit that point where production really doesn't become a problem anymore. You've got all the iron you need. You've got all the cobalt you need. You've gone out into space. You've gotten your uranium. You've gotten your platinum from the moon or wherever you're getting it from. There's just nothing otherwise, that's it. With the food, even if you scale it, so either it's a small farm or a large farm, it is something that is a constant consuming. You're going to have to either hand deal with it, or you're going to have to come up with new factory lines. And if you've watched the kind of preview trailer that Keen released for this, you'll see that they've got some pretty incredible automated farming systems going on, which looks pretty amazing. It also makes that ice gets a whole new level of importance, because your plants will die. So the next thing that we have here is we have now another new block, which is the food pack crafting, or the food processor. And that allows us to basically take our raw food items, so whether it's something you've grown, whether it's cooked meat or what have you, and we can actually make a bunch of recipes. And you can see here that the flatbread, these are the buffs that it gives you. So flatbread gives you plus 34 on your food, as well as plus 10 on your health. So all of these have slightly different things. The dumplings here, very good condensed, 51%, again 10% health. So it looks like most of them here are 10% health. So healing, usually we have to use either refill station, one of my new favorite blocks, med kit, survival kit, or if you have it turned on, you can slowly regain your health in high oxygen environments, or of course find the good old med packs in encounters. Now we can actually get some health by eating some food here, so that's looking pretty cool, is that we can make all these lovely little recipes here to kind of keep us, breathing. So the next section here is talking about the actual meaningful death. That's where I was just talking about the buffs and stuff like that. So we actually have a chart here. You can see where your buff levels are. So for example, your buff level 5 here, 150% welding speed. That's pretty cool. If you have yourself an elite welder, that thing is basically touch and done. It's almost, I would have to say, probably is going to be close to a creative mode. Oxygen consumption at buff level 5. Here is a really nice one. You're in space. You're consuming our oxygen at a 50% rate. Movement speed, we can actually get even faster. Of course, that comes with the danger of smashing into things, but you know what? That'll even itself out at whatever level you can handle your speed, as well as debuffing yourself. Big thing here also now is that we have environmental hazards. Weather is not just a foggy nuisance. Weather actually now brings environmental dangers to us. The first one, of course, here is we also have an additional new thing we have to pay attention to, which is radiation. So this is something also that's been in mod form for, I think, quite a while. The longer you're exposed to outer space, the more radiation you're going to take. If you're on a planet with a thin atmosphere, Mars, for example, you're going to take radiation damage, and you're going to have to deal with that radiation. It means you're going to have to get out of the source of the rad, and it'll eventually go down, or you're going to have to start finding anti-rad meds, which falls, I think, under the same category, if I recall correctly, as the med packs, which is a found item only. So something that you're really going to have to start paying attention to. If you're doing a space adventure, you step outside your ship, you're going to start taking radiation. So you really do need to be mindful of that now. Leaving a door open or hanging out in your bay, you're probably going to take damage. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out as we go through our survivals. Okay, so the next thing here is that we have weather hazards now. So I mentioned that the environments can actually give us some issue. For example, sandstorms on Mars, Titan, Pertam, Earth-like, and alien planets. They have debris. You could get smacked with things. Hailstorms, caustic rain, so toxic rain. Acid rain. Electrical storms can also now be a problem. Lightning giving you an issue. And there's a lovely chart here again, and that I will post the link in the description below, so you can peruse the charts under your own pleasure and your own time. But yeah, you can see that there are some real big environmental dangers that we're now going to face in the various worlds. So how you set up your bases, where you set up your bases on a particular planet. If you're starting off on Pertam, you're going to face some dangers that you wouldn't be facing on the Earth-like. So, you're going to have to build very differently and have different structures than you would on, say, Earth-like. Meteors now are I actually like this one, is that we can bring meteors back. The only reason that anyone turns meteors off, really, or not, okay, that's an absolute. Let's talk about the reason I don't and many others don't have the meteors running is because they hit the voxels and they damage the voxels. And the fastest way to make your game turn into a gigabyte monstrosity with absolutely crap frame rates and your time ticking inside the game going to complete and utter crap is to have lots and lots of voxel damage. My first playthrough, I had the meteors turned on. The landscape looked like it was basically the surface of the moon, and the performance just suffered because I didn't know about voxel damage and how it has the impact. That's not a concern anymore. The meteors will still, if they hit your grid, will damage your grid. The meteors will still damage you, but they don't damage the voxel. They also don't target you, which means they are just a random environmental hazard. Really nice. I like this. So a new event system ensures that the meteors don't stack in multiplayer. So if you have your meteors turned on previously in multiplayer, all the encounters and all of the things that are player-centric happen for every player. If you've got 6 people in a multiplayer game, you're going to have, and you have encounters on, you're going to have 6 times the encounters that you would if you were playing by yourself. That's not an issue anymore. They have now addressed it so it doesn't become, a super choked out thing. Haven't had a chance to look at any of them yet. I don't really want to talk, I'm not going to go over them in any kind of detail or anything like that. But something I'm really looking forward to is there's a whole bunch new space encounters. Now, that's not to say that they're all brand new. A lot of them are reworks of previous encounters, but there are also some new encounters with some new ships and new things going on, as well as new interactions with the quote-unquote NPC entities that are going to be in there. So I'm looking forward to kind of having a few more space encounters. I always appreciate getting more, especially if I don't have to do things like run MES. The mod list can get pretty extreme, as no slack against MES. I love MES. That's multiple encounter system or something like that, or modular encounter system, I'm sorry. So you have things like the assert faction. So it gives a way for modders to kind of create a unified NPC encounter system that all kind of works together and interacts really nicely. It's a great system. But it's not the vanilla one. I like having the vanilla one because the MES is an adversarial period. There's no friendliness, there's no neutrality with them. except maybe if you're using the trade alliance or the trade faction. Yeah, they will stay neutral and you can get stuff that is very useful, but everyone else is an absolute, you know what, they see you, they're shooting you. They hate your face. These ones, you're now into the usual encounters, which means you're going to run into neutrals or even possibly favors. It means managing your faction reputation a little nicer. So I always appreciate it when they make the encounters a little bit friendlier. We're going to have a look at some of the new reorganized settings here for the games. So they've actually changed the interface panel, and it's looking really quite nice, and we'll go looking at that. So other things in here we can look at are improvements for and quality of life changes. So we got a new starter rover. So the 4 little engine round thing is gone. It's now this rover. The pod is no more. It is now this guy. We get a brand new skybox. Apparently, we also now have in the offensive AI blocks. So that's the AI offensive. You can actually now set triggers on those. So in the AI defensive, you could set a trigger. So these things will happen when it detects an enemy. So you can either trigger a timer block or you can have individual triggers. So you can set conditions, turn the lights red, play a sound block, turn the weapons on, whatever it happens to be. We can now also add that in our offensive triggers. Production menu now remembers the last selected grafting block. I'm not sure what that means. We'll look at it. Hand weapons, ammo counts visible in the inventory screen. Rebalance character, oxygen storage supply, rebalance rework crafting costs, and lots more. So that's looking kind of cool. I always like quality of life improvements. All right, let's have a quick look in the new settings for when you're starting a new world. So I'm just going to go into the basic star system here, and I'm going to go into the customize so I can set it up. So everything is pretty much the same, like contents-wise. It's just how things are organized. So we can still set things into either a creative or survival mode. We can still play offline, private, friends, public, however we want to do that. You can set, of course, your max page. You can have your autosave turned on. Always have your autosave turned on. I like to keep 5 of my autosaves. You know, some people will have more, some will have less. Of course, we have the good old mod list here, which I actually haven't even looked at, but nothing new here. You can see these are all the kind of stack of mods that are in my various collections and stuff. I bet I use about half of them in a regular gameplay. As we scroll down, we can see we have now things in categories. So we have the global multiplier. And honestly, this makes so much difference. The previous menu, of course, was just, here's all these things. Here's all these things. Good luck finding that one thing. I don't know how many times I spent literal minutes looking for turn off tool shake. These are things now in right actual categories here. So our global modifiers here. So we still have things like our assembler multipliers here. We have our refinery speed, the block inventory size. I mean, it's a little bit reworked. It used to be character efficiency or character size on the top here. So these are my usual kind of settings here. Actually, I like the realistic. We have the grinding speed. We have the welding speed, the usual view distance and stuff, so nothing's there. Of course, now we have specific environmental options here, so enabling lightning damage. Still not turning that on. We have the enable weather, so we can turn on weather. We can turn the radiation on and off. So again, if you are a new player and you're feeling it's being a little overwhelming, you can absolutely turn that off. Or if you're just out for a chill sandbox adventure, you can turn that off as well. I mean, again, your gameplay is how you want to play it. The whole point is to have so that you're having fun. Of course, we can always be able to turn off the rotation, so we can have permaday, and you can of course set your times. Now in the asteroid amount, so as usual, that's the same as it's always been. Meteor activity, this is now one that's been usually turned into safe mode. Don't know if Armageddon works yet. Don't know, don't care. just going to go with the normal here, see how well that goes. And again, you can have your normal kind of choices here. Solar radiation intensity, so we can set that to light, medium, and heavy. I'll probably have mine set to this to start off with light. If I'm finding that it's going too easy, I may turn it up from there. Sound mode, yes, again, is up to player preference. Come down into our survival. So this is now in all the things to do with things like your auto healing. So this is when I say if you're in a high oxygen environment, you're good. Getting rid of your respawn ship, jetpack enabling, your auto respawn, your oxygen progression. I've done it enough times. I think I've earned turning that switch off. Making sure your air tightness, the respawn ship. So all the usual stuff is here. And nothing's really super different. Unless you, again, here we have the survival buffs and the reduced stats on respawn. So again, that's the consequences of losing your clone. Now, of course, we have a category for our encounters and our NPCs, so we can turn on and off our cargo ships, whether you're going to use encounters or economy or any of that other stuff. Global encounter, this is again the unidentified signals, that the Factorum stuff. And of course, how much density of the NPC encounters you're going to get. One thing I'm looking forward to see if they've addressed is, after a short period of time, that you have about 150,000 freaking white tags floating around in your HUD. I hope they despawn after a little while. And that's one of the things that the MES does really well, is that if something crosses into your area of influence, it goes in, it goes past, it leaves, it goes bye-bye. Again, our combat and PvP, nothing different about it. It is just now into its own category. And of course, we have our miscellaneous, so max offline broadcast. Again, our spectator camera, you want to have that turned on. Thruster damage and all the usual stuff. And again, the big important one here for anyone who's doing things like, crane rigs or subgridding, you want to make sure, again, if you want to use scripts, you turn them on. If you want to use inertia tensor, these are basically the ones that allow you to get the most out of your hinges, rotors, and pistons. And we can turn on subgrid damage, super gridding. Never used any of the rest of the other things here, but that is all in that stuff. So that is now our new settings. All right, I'm going to go back. I've already kind of got a game here that I've started, so I'm going to hit my continue game. And we're going to see what the state of my poor guy is. Okay, we're back in the game here, and let's have a quick look here at our new survival rover. So apparently the colors are now randomly chosen, so I didn't paint this yellow. I didn't choose the yellow. I like the yellow. It's actually one of the few times I like yellow. But we can see that we no longer have that usual little pod here. So it's fully decked out. We got a full-size battery there. It is on wheels. We have our survival kit right here. Don't look to the side. Don't look to the side. So we have our full-size survival kit. Looks like we got our good old, and let's just bring that in. So we have a hydrogen tank. We've got our O2, H2 in here somewhere. Let's get some hydrogen. What we got going on here? That's our survival kit. Let's hop in the cockpit here and see what we actually have, and have a little quick drive. So you can see here that also I really appreciate they put the handbrake on. I'm a firm believer that do not use P for parking. It is just going to get you into trouble. So not P for parking. That gyro that's on Toolbore 9, that apparently is for a self-righting system or some way of righting your rover if you happen to flip it over. And of course, we got the good old ore detector. But let's just have a quick look here and see what we've got. So we've got a full air vent, so it really pressurizes. If you're in a low oxygen world, of course, it'll help pressurize your cockpit here. We have the ore detector. We have the survival kit. What we do not have is an H2O2, it looks like. Problematic. We'll have to see how that plays out in your survival. The previous pod had that, so you could always get hydrogen for your bottles. In this case, all we've got is a small oxygen tank and a small hydrogen tank that we're going to have to feed off of. So that's something that's going to be interesting. to see how that plays out. Okay, before we go on here, let's have a quick look at my stats here. You can see that in the bottom left-hand corner, on top of both my health, my power, my O2, my H2, there's another new scale. That is the hunger scale. So they have, while they have added food, it doesn't look like they've added thirst. So that is not a mechanic we're going to deal with. It is just making sure we feed our bodies. And I kind of forgot to pause the game when I went to have a quick lunch break and after the stream. And, well, my guy got hungry. In fact, I came across, when I got back to him, he was dying from lack of food. I restored the rest of my stats, but I'm going to need to now restore my health stats. So to do that, what you got to do is you got to make sure you have some sort of meal pack on me. I just kind of grabbed myself some quick ramen here because, you know, good old ramen can never go wrong. So to consume it, it's just like the old Clank Cola. It's a med kit. All we got to do is do a right click. That has now consumed one of these guys. And if we look at my stats, you can see, well, 19, 20, 22. It's going to take a little bit for it to go up, but those stats are going to go up. I'm no longer in the red, and I am not hungry anymore. So now we can go on. So where do you get those meal packs? Well, of course, we can find them in things like our random encounters that we will find scattered across the landscape here. So, you know, I don't really have a lot in here yet. There's just the unidentified signal. So let's just hide this by hitting H. So where do you get those meal packs as well? Well, that's where the food processor, our first new block, comes in. So the food processor here, this is where we actually can make our food. Haven't done anything with it. No idea how to utilize it here. So that's going to be interesting. Yeah, no idea how it works, so I'm looking forward to finding that out. Somewhere along the line, we're going to have to be able to put recipes or something in there. But yeah, that is now the block that allows us to make our meal packs. It is connected on the bottom. If we bring one up here in our G menu here, so I go food processor. Oops, already in my menu there, so I'm going to hit 1. So the food processor has connections on the bottom. That is really far away from me. So if we look here, and we can see that, no, it's going to be stuck. Anyway, back at connection and bottom connection there. If we have a look on the top here, we also have a connection up there. Nothing's on the side, so, you know, keep that in mind when you're placing your blocks. The next thing we have here, this is an algae farm. So an algae farm is your most basic way of creating food stocks, good old algae. It's a little, from what I gather, it's a little bit like the, oh God, it bubbles. It's a little like the oxygen farms. It's essentially sunlight, and it will slowly start producing energy or algae for you. It's got connections on there, we can see it there. Let me just get it rolled over and move it away from me. So we only have connections on the bottom. We have none on any of the other sides here. So as I flip it around, there's also nothing on the top. So it is only going to be a bottom-fed device. Next thing we have here is our water system. So this is our irrigation system. So this is what you need to make sure that you're processing the ice that you're going to have to gather, so it will feed your farm plots. Having a look at that one in its basic block, where our irrigation system, there we go. So we can see here that this one has connections on the top. So it looks like we have the connection on the top and only one side, nothing on the bottom. So you can see those are our connections, and that's the front of the panel. And look, it's starting to rain. And here's the thing, it's actual, you can see it's rain. It's just not ugly, ugly fog. So that's really quite nice. All right, next to this, we have our actual farm plots. So when I interact with the farm plot here, this is where I can actually start planting seeds. I don't have any seeds on me at the current point, and it's also not piped into water, but this is where we can start growing our food. So if you're in a station, you can set up a farm plot. It will react to the environment, so make sure it's always got water. Make sure it's always got oxygen. If you are in space and your compartment gets vacuumed, you lose your plants. That entire crop will in fact get wiped out. So make sure you have good airlock discipline. All right, what else have we got in here? So the next thing we have here, well, it's not really necessarily new, and this isn't the one. So if we go back to Fieldwork, the previous update, they gave us these lovely little round corridors and these wonderful round corridor doors. Of course, the problem with that is that it is only one side, not anymore. We now have an inverted round corridor door, so no more weird wackiness going on. You can now put it on either side, and it's not like the other doors where the top and bottom, it is kind of more symmetrical. So if we look at, for example, here, the sliding hatch door here, and we'll just drop one down quickly. The sliding hatch door here, the details on the top and the details on the bottom are identical, so it is easily mirrored. The corridor, the round corridor, has a flat walking plate here that is not present on the top, so you actually do need an inverted variant of that. So these are the non-DLC blocks. At least this is some of the non-DLC blocks. There very likely could be more. If we have a quick look at the graphic that is on the website. Okay, so if we have a quick look at this, we can see that we've got in the DLC, so this is just in the update. We'll look at some of these fancy things here. So what you get is you get your space encounters, the buffs and meaningful, the new survival. So we have the algae farm. We have our forageable plants, so you'll find new plant matter across the stage. That's where you can get some of your initial seeds by finding like wheat, vegetables, berries, mushrooms. We get our meal packs, and of course we have our farm plot. All right, let's have a quick look around on the other side of our wall here and look at some of the new cool. All right, so the first thing we have is, look at this monstrosity, this monster. This is the Drill Mark II. Yeah, that's right. We got ourselves a big-ass new drill. So this one is actually, and as if you look in Keen's, it's more of a land scraper. So one of the big problems that you have with drills is the area of effect. And if you try to put one of these suckers on a rover, it's going to fall into the hole very quickly. You're going to end up in a direct downward spiral towards the center of the planet. These guys have balanced this out so that you can actually put it in front of a rover and drive level. It'll dig you down a little bit, but you want to start carving some roads around your worlds, this is the one for you. And it comes in both a large grid variant as well as in a small grid variant. And this is just a really cool looking device. Now again, all of these things are part of the DLC, which is €6.95 or something like that. It cost me with taxes just over $7 Canadian. So it's the same price as the DLC's always been. And I'm sure that they're going to have some really cool package deals. I'm not being sponsored by Keen in any way, shape, or form. All right, the next thing we get is we get new grinders. Yes, we have a Mark II, Type 2, I should say, grinder. Again, there's no improvement in performance because Keen is very much about not pay to win. But what they are just some really cool new looking models. Something that's not just an update to, frankly, a pretty old design. Once again, this comes in large grid as well as small grid. The reason they're on the side is because of the connection points, just because I have it on a little mag plate there so it's not just bouncing around. Of course, what is a drill, a grinder, without a welder? And look at this thing. Isn't that thing looking wicked? Yes, we have a new Type 2 welder as well. Again, no improvement performance-wise. Connection points are all still the same as they were. Just a much more kind of newer, updated design to them in both the cosmetic. Next thing we have is we have these guys here. These are the... There are wolves nearby. Guys hear that? I'm being hunted by wolves. And it's, yeah. That's a little creepy. Oh, there he is. Do I have a gun? Let me quickly grab a gun here. Again, I'm in crate about here, so that's Shift F10. Gonna grab myself an MR3. I only want the one of them, so we'll get one of those and pick that up. Let's get ourselves some ammunition. MR30 rifle magazine. I'll grab 20 of those, make sure I have lots. And let's go do some hunting. Alright, there he is. Let's get him, see what happens. And oh, no you don't. Got him. For some odd reason, that raised my reputation with the pirates. Okay, this is something I'm not super fond of. Oh, what happened to my rifle? I'm not a big fan of killing the doggos, but they are an environmental hazard. And if we see that we can highlight them here and I hit F, this is where we can get some raw steak. So I've now got 4 mammal meat raw. If I eat this, it's gonna poison me, it's gonna hurt. I'm not gonna do that, but it should be something that we can now cook up in fashion. All right. Okay, now that we've got our steaks and we've dealt with our wolf, we can have a first look at this block here. First off, bubbles. Bubbly bubblies. Never go wrong with some bubblies. This here is an algae farm. So if you want to be placing this into your walls, if you're in a ship, maybe this is some way that you could do. It looks like it is airtight. It is a 2x1/2 by 1, so very much just like the usual 2x1/2 blocks. Take up the same space, or as the half windows. It has a single connection point on the back here. So that is the algae farm. On top of that, we also have the oxygen farm. So oxygen farm has gotten itself a facelift. So that's quite nice. So operates the exact same way as the cylindrical oxygen farm, just finally has a lovely new shape. Most importantly, nothing against my fish tank. I loves me my fish tank. Everything I got has got a fish tank, but we have new terrariums as well. So we have this lovely little desert biome terrarium. Got a moth floating in there. You can see we got bugs around. There's a snail somewhere in here, apparently slowly moving around, or is that in the next one? So we can see we've got a more tropical one here. Yeah, there's the snail. The snail does move. He is apparently moving. He's going around. He's got shit to do. We can see we got some lovely butterflies. So this is to complement our fish tanks, because we know we always have to have a little bit of life in our spaceships. The next block we have here is, well, this one is pretty freaking cool. No idea what it is just by looking at it, do ya? Well, what this is a vertical survival kit. Yes, a survival kit type 2. What that means for us, dear folks, is that we have a connection point on the top, we have a connection point on the bottom. No more survival kits lying on their sides. You've got your conveyors underneath. This little beauty here will make sure that you don't have to have some weird sideways writing. So that's awesome. Yay, thank you. Our next block here is this rather cool looking decorative block here. And what this is an inset planter. Where's the interface on this bugger here? This is purely a decorative block. This has no function. It's cool as shit. It's got a rotating cylinder. Who does not like a rotating cylinder? But it is purely decorative. Yeah, just having some of these scattered around, looking good, looking cool. Nice, cool function. Unlike the oxygen farm, this is a functional block, but it functions the same way as the usual functional block. The algae farm here operates the same way as the non-DLC algae, depending on your accent, farm. This guy here is purely decorative, does nothing. Next neat little decorative piece is these guys here. We have conduits. So in the field work, they were lovely enough to give us the pipes. I mean, again, non-functional, they don't do anything. But we also have these. So across the bottom row here, we have the first one here. That is a conduit straight. So it just goes from one side of the block to the next. I didn't break this. This came pre-broken. just a little bit if you're decorating. So if you're doing setting up a encounter base for someone, or doing a mod and you want to have some damage showing, this is just a really nice dynamic way of doing that. We have another block here, so we have the conduit junction here, so it's got connection points on either side. We have a lovely little light one. This is nice. I always appreciate when they give us something that has a light source on it. It just makes lighting your ships and bases that much easier, because you can just run these conduits here, run these guys along the ceiling. That will look so sweet. We have this lovely little angle block here, so we need to turn a corner. We got that sucker right there. We've got another one tucked in the bottom corner here, so working in conjunction, you can have all nice tight corners. We've got this little sucker here. Now this is a cool one. Where do the conduits start? Well, they start right here. Where do the conduits end? Well, they end right here. Of course, we have two diagonal blocks, which is really nice. So if your conduit needs to get from one side of the block to the other, we can just cross over there. Not a problem with the pipes, because the pipes were massively huge, so they covered. So we got left and right. We also then have an inside corner. So your conduits need to either run inside a corner or from floor to ceiling, wall to ceiling or floor to wall. We've got you covered. And then there's this little fella right here. He's just a little bitty little fella. That's just a way if you want to terminate it or wrap a corner. So your pipes come along here, junction into that, and they can disappear into your wall. Lickety split. So working on our second row here, we've got some new freight containers. We got these nice little storage bins here. Nice and cute. So they're very much like the freight cargo containers. So we got these guys here. So, you know, usual storage space, nothing really different about them. That's different sizes. That's kind of nice. Well, like all the cargo blocks. And we have this nice little pallet block here. Even has a lovely pallet underneath. That's really sweet. This is awesome. Type 2 ore detector. Yeah. Same functionality, but it's spinny. We got spinnies. Nobody hates a spinny. So yeah, we got a new large grid ore detector, same 2x1x1 space. Functionality is the same as the previous ore detector. It just is now spinny. And of course, we have this little fella down here. He's just sitting on a mag plate here. He will spin as well, so we also have a small grid. Just having that just sitting on the roof of your rover, as you're zipping around looking for stuff, is just going to look so much nicer. All right, over here, coming to the kind of end of the DLC. There's a storm going on out there. We have some new signs to, of course, go along with the new hazards. So we have a new radiation warning hazard, remembering that we will take damage now from radiation. It's not just solar radiation. If you got a leaky reactor, you're going to take rads. I haven't seen what's going to happen with uranium ore, but that's going to be interesting. We also have now a frost damage. Again, the frost will hurt you if you're in too cold, if you're in a snowstorm. We've got a caution for that. And then because we now have food, we can now have a sign pointing ourselves to the mess hall. Okay, so that is all the new DLC blocks that I've managed to find. I'm very, very likely missing a few, which, you know what, more for you guys to discover. One last thing I do want to do, let's take a little quick trip to one of the other big updates. So let's not cast our eyes down, but let's cast our eyes upward. Yes, we have a new skybox. No more green fog cloud. We have something that I'm looking at here, and oh my god, this is gorgeous. Look at that nebula, that gas cloud over there. It's not just a uniform color. It's got depth. It's got the little holes in there. It feels like it's three-dimensional. That's beautifully done, and it just goes on and on. So much nicer than the old skybox. I probably, and you're probably like anyone else has been playing for a long, I mean, look at that, just that planet off in the distance in front of those clouds, like those gas clouds. That's just freaking gorgeous, man. And yeah, these are the kind of things that, lots of people have built beautiful skyboxes. I've been using a blue one that is just gorgeous and gives everything a really nice lighting. This here, this is beautiful. Let's take a quick trip down to the planet and let's see what it looks like at night. All right, we're back down on our frozen lake. Just got all our stuff in behind us here. There's no other lights, and just look. That is just gorgeous. Got a nice planet over there. Don't know which one it is. Look at these clouds, these gas clouds, just looking into infinity. Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that just makes you pause every once in a while and just have a look around. Is it the most elaborate? No, but man, it's just nice. Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you saw something cool that'll get into your gameplay here. Just came off the stream, wanted to throw a quick reaction video to some of the new blocks here. I'm scratching the surface. I have not played with any of them yet. I wanted to just kind of do this quick video, and then I'm going to get into a save and see what goes on. And yes, you do not have to start a new world. You just have to go into the settings of your current save and set your switches and start dealing with the consequences of your decisions. Thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to hit the old like button if you like what you saw. If you're not subscribed and just kind of picked up on the Apex stuff, maybe consider hitting the old subscription button. Appreciate your guys' time. Appreciate you watching the video. Until next time, be safe, be good, and have a great day. Bye-bye.